Welcome to this video coverage for round 3 of my tournament in Bad Wiessee, Germany, the Open International Bavarian Championships. Yes, this is the right one. OIBM is the abbreviation in German. Yeah, the third round, and again I got a stronger opponent than the one before, but it's not like increasing exponentially. This is an opponent rated 2210. A veteran German player, Kannenberg, about 60 years old. I think he's 60 or 61. And yeah, he's a very solid player. I was doing some preparation when I learned of this this draw, and I recognized that he basically plays the same 5 moves in every game, the same first 5 moves. He always plays d4, knight f3, e3, bishop e2, and castles. So he's like playing a super solid setup, yeah, quickly castling and just yeah, stay very conservative in the center. This is of course not an opening that frightens you very much as black, but you still ask yourself, okay, the guy is doing the same thing really all the time. What is a good setup against it? Because you basically can choose whatever you like. He's doing the same thing every time. So I was thinking that I could do something drastic, yeah, like I can put d4 on the board. He played this. You can do something drastic like f5, yeah, and arguing that e3 is not great against the Dutch, but still I couldn't really do that. I mean, I wanted to stay with within some parameters that I know, and I really don't know this kind of opening so well. So I went with knight f6 instead of any crazy stuff. The Dutch is not crazy, but it's not what I regularly do. I went knight f6, knight f3, and here I played g6, which I don't play in tournament chess that often, like the King's Indian. I don't play it that often. But here I basically, I could really reckon that e3 is played, and he did play that. And I rather have this fianchetto setup than an e6 setup against this. It's simply a little bit more dynamic. He castled, and now I played the move c5. And now something interesting happened. He instantly captured on c5. In the games that I had seen of him, he normally reacted to c5 by playing c4 himself, or sometimes by yeah, basically ignoring the whole thing and just play, yeah, like b3 or c3, yeah, something like that. This move, yeah, like super solid. But he took, which is not a bad decision at all. If you think about this, this is quite the same as a Retty opening with colors reversed. Yeah, if you are irritated by my statement, let's jump back. And let's say something like that happens. And now let's say black takes. This is exactly what we have on the board, just with reversed colors. And he of course plays the black side. It has an extra tempo. Here we can switch. It's the same thing. It's just that white has an extra tempo. This also proves that this opening cannot really be played for an advantage, because a single tempo is not very relevant here. Okay, I wanted my pawn back, of course, and I played queen c7. And here white has a hard time to keep the pawn. If he tries stuff like b4, I go a5. And after a move like c3, there is a very nice motif that will win huge chunks of material. The rook hangs. You cannot block the diagonal because of mate. Well-known motif from the Catalan opening. Yeah, after queen c7 he cannot really keep the pawn. He can play this move. It's not so crazy. I actually calculated a bit to make sure that I really have a good position. It's sometimes, the problem is not so much that you are pawn down, the problem is that if white keeps this pawn, you have a hard time to play any of those moves to get your bishop out. After queen d4, I would have played knight to a6 with good play. White is basically forced to capture, and after that I make sure that I get b7, bishop to b7, and possibly a knight jump in. So queen d4 was was no real option, and he didn't think about it that much. He played, instead of this, he played a3 quickly. Makes lots of sense. I took on c5 and he played b4. This is a good way to get your bishop developed, and this is exactly the same development plan that is also played in the Reti line that I showed earlier. Yeah? If we jump back here in this setup, it is totally normal that black is expanding like this. Bishop to b7, of course. Bishop to b7, of course. So we are basically playing a colors reversed position. Yeah, okay. b4, I went back to c7, fianchetto, b6. Yeah, normal setup, I guess. b6, c4, bishop b7, knight d2, d6, rook c1, knight bd7. Yeah, we can stop here and evaluate the structure a bit. Yeah, what about this structure? Yeah, black has set up a double fianchetto in a way, bishop on b7 and on g7, and it is very solid. What an advantage of black's position here is that it is a very compact structure. I don't have a single weakness in my structure. You can argue, what about white's structure? He does not have a weakness as well, right? That's true, almost. White has a slight weakness. This is the c4 pawn. At the moment, this is not an issue at all because it is protected 3 times and it is only attacked by the queen, yeah, so it's nothing serious. But this in fact is my grand plan here in this position. What black wants to do is, if possible, trade off some minor pieces and at the end put some pressure on the pawn on c4. Yeah, what exactly am I talking about? Just forget about concrete moves for a moment and think about the structure. What I can do is I can alter the position a bit and maybe make it a little bit more clear to you. Let me just do one thing. Let's get rid of all the minor pieces. Yeah, in such a situation, it is, I guess, far more apparent. I can bring the queen over and play something like that. And now you probably see what I'm talking about. I'm pressurizing this pawn. And it can easily happen that white tries to defend it. Yeah, even this is possible. But then I have this kind of ideas. I have some pawn breaks. Yeah, this is something where black is pushing a little bit. It is nothing decisive, but it's something to aim for. Which means a general plan here is to trade off the light pieces, the minor pieces. Let's go back to the game and think about this again. Black wants to trade minor pieces. He also has a little bit of a space disadvantage, so the trades do make sense. And think about this when the game proceeds. I like to trade pieces. Okay, he plays knight d4 and bishop f3. Aha, so he's trading one of my pieces. I don't mind that so much, so I'm going to take here and put the queen on b7. The queen has a neat spot on b7 here as well. It just replaces the bishop. And I really don't mind the light squared bishop being traded. I have a clear plan now. I can, after he played h3, kind of a waiting move, I went a6. And now I have a simple plan. Rook c7, rook here, and then go from there. I have something to attack, the pawn on c4. The position is still equal. I'm not saying that black is better, but at least I have an idea. And it's not so easy to give an idea for white. He in fact tried something active. He played the move a4. I don't think that this is a good move, to be honest. The reason is that at the end it gives white more weaknesses and it achieves relatively little. I went with rook c7 as a reply. Maybe with hindsight I should have played a5. That's a move that I actually saw, but I discarded because I wasn't totally sure if I should play it. The thing is, after a5, at first it looks crazy because white can take and I cannot recapture because the hanging queen. But I have the move knight c5, which is strong, and I saw that, but I wasn't sure, and not because of this line here. After this, for example, black has just a good position, but I wasn't sure if after a5 he goes b5, if this is something that I should force. The thing is, I was thinking that I can play a5 probably later, and in a situation where we have this configuration, let me just show what I played. I played rook c7, and now he went b5, which I had expected. That's the only move that does make some sense in connection with a4. And I was thinking that if I want to play a5, I can do this at any time. And maybe it's an idea to keep this configuration as is, so that I can actually take on b5 sometimes. It might be an additional idea. I want to keep this tension. And it turned out that this was a good decision, and if you look at the game. However, the move a5, as mentioned, also was okay. Both structures are quite good. Yeah, after b5, now I have multiple ways to play. In fact, the move that I do play is not approved by the computer, but I still don't mind the move. I went knight b8. I just covered the square on c6. I just figured that it's not really a big deal that the knight is on b8. It's just a temporary thing anyway. And I also wanted to get the idea into the mix that maybe sometimes I can even play, in the right moment, I can play e5 and drive the knight away so I cannot go to c6. Of course, e5 is a move that needs to be handled with utmost caution because it weakens tons of squares, like d6 pawn, d5, whatnot, but I wanted to have this idea at least. Okay, he went knight d2, which I had expected at some point. The knight on f3 is really looking at mostly at e5, where there is just a pawn where it's just a square that's controlled by a pawn. So this was to be expected. Rook c8, and now he went queen a2. Note that I really have a target, yeah? I'm targeting c4. Okay, knight f to d7. This was part of the plan when I played knight b8. I wanted to reroute this knight to c5 and get possible ideas to jump to d3 and attack a4. Okay, and here the next move, I think, is the first maybe the first real mistake that white committed. While I don't really like this a4 b5 business, it shouldn't really land him into substantial trouble. But the next move is this one, and after that I definitely have something tangible. Why? Yeah, simply because I can trade this, and after knight c5 I can trade another pair of knights. The knight attacks a4, and well, he cannot save the a4 pawn and prevent this exchange, this trade from happening. So he just has to take here, and I took with the rook. And we are vastly approaching the scenario that I had described earlier, just heavy pieces on the board. He went rook b1, a little bit of a mysterious move. I think he should play something like e4, knight d7, and we go from there. I'm definitely a little bit better because I really have a target while he has none. This is a big asset of such a compact structure. Very often these hedgehog type of structures or double fianchetto type of structures where you have the center far back, they are very compact and don't have any weaknesses, which is very often a very good thing to have. I think he should try to defend this position. Black is more comfortable, but it is not clear yet how I'm winning this. Yeah, there are many ways to try. I can try to tickle him like that, rook e5, knight c5. I can play knight f6, or I can think about if I should take on b5 or play a5. Many ideas, but this is still something that only is a little bit more comfortable for black. He did not play that. He played the mysterious move, rook b1. I don't really know the point of the move, to be honest. And I couldn't ask him after the game. We did not analyze, simply couldn't manage. I really didn't understand the move. Why do you want to go to b1? Yeah, well, I played knight d7, of course, because he threatened to take b6 maybe, but knight d7 was mandatory in any case. It was the next move, pretty much whatever white is doing. And yeah, I think now, in fact, comes a decisive mistake. After the next move, I think white is almost lost. Very, very difficult after that to retain a playable position. He definitely should play the move queen d4 now. Yeah, centralize the queen, keep this protected, and go from there. A possible continuation after queen d4 is knight e5. This is why the queen is on d4, to cover this square here. And rook c1. And while black has all the fun, because I can actually do something, while he cannot do anything himself, it's still very solid for him. The move he played was a mistake. He played the move f4. And yeah, I understand he wants to prevent the knight from coming to e5, but the real problem of the move is that it weakens a ton of squares and pawns, especially e4 and e3. The e3 pawn is vulnerable, and the e4 square is a big problem. And it now gets very, very concrete quickly. I took on b5 and now played knight f6. In this case, we see an advantage of black not having played a5 earlier, because in this situation the trade is much stronger. Why? We will see why. The point is now knight f6 has a huge threat. The threat is to play knight to e4 and trade off this knight. This would simply win the game. Simply because let's say he plays something like that and I go here, then this knight needs to trade, and here we get the perfect situation where all minor pieces are traded. I have the utmost pressure against this, and I even have pressure against e3, and this means that material is going to get lost. And after a material loss like the c4 pawn, there are pawns remaining that are still weak, like e3 and b5. Well, black structure, especially here on the king side, yeah, this kind of formation is the best you can have. It has no weaknesses whatsoever. The threat knight e4 basically forces his move. He played queen d4 here, and after that there's an important move that that black needs to play. I think it's a move that is pretty apparent to yeah, more experienced player, but can be difficult to play for an intermediate player. I played d5. This is by far the strongest move. It is, however, maybe illogical to some people, because, well, c4 was the weakness. Why does black play d5 and allow this weakness to be traded? Yeah, this is true, but it's a trade of advantages. What I'm giving up is I'm giving up one advantage to gain another one. The point is that he now has to take on d5. Otherwise, I just win the c4 pawn with the capture. Next move, so he has to take, and I take with the rook. Yeah, we see that I'm attacking the knight. He has to go back to b2. And here we see also why not playing a5 earlier can have its advantages. b5 is a weakness. This pawn is far weaker than the b6 pawn by comparison. This position with pawns on a5 and a4 in addition is less convincing for black. Yeah, and there are also very concrete problems here. I played the move rook d3, which was part of the plan. And here we see why f4 is such a fatal move. If in this position the pawn would be on f2, back on f2, there's really not that much going on. Black is a little bit better because of the better activity of the rooks with the pawn on f2, but it's nothing decisive. While here we see the big weaknesses. The pawn is just hanging, c3 is weak, and yeah, the whole back rank, third rank, second rank, they're all weak. Yeah, he played rook to e1, not much else. And here the computer gives an improvement. Instead of rook c to c3, this one, which is what I played, computer wants to go knight d5. Yeah, Houdini wants to go knight d5. This is really strong, really stronger. I had seen the move, but I've underestimated the consequences. I thought that after knight f1, knight c3, this isn't that terrible, but I have a strong move that I didn't see, rook c5. After rook c5, he will lose this pawn on b5. I didn't see that. However, it needs to be mentioned that what I played also leads to a very big advantage. Because I attack here on e3, and the only way really to keep it is to play the very passive move knight to f1, which is what he has to do. Or which he not has to do, which is what he played. He should have tried, this actually. This is a little bit stronger. One point is that now the pawn grab here is not so clear due to queen d4 with this idea, rook c8, queen d8. So I cannot really win the pawn, or I mean I can win the pawn, but it's something that is not very convincing. I can play something else though. I can, I think, play queen to c7. Huh? Yeah, I can go here and still keep an edge. I have those active rooks and I have control over the c file after the capture. Something like that is still very good for black. He should have tried that though. I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe I would have taken the pawn. I don't know. It's something that white should try. A passive move like knight f1 will rarely save the day. But it needs to be also mentioned that he had little time on the clock. Again, I was having a huge time advantage. Yeah, knight e4. There we go. The consequence of the f4 move. Black is now dominating nicely. Those, those pieces are very nice. Yeah, rook to d1 and queen d5. All strong, centralizing moves. He now took. And yeah, here I really had a hard time to decide what to play. I saw that queen takes d3 is also strong, but ultimately I decided to take with the rook. After queen takes, I thought that maybe he can play this, and okay, I win a pawn, but I did not want to trade rooks. I mean, this position is fantastic for black, but I was thinking that if I keep rooks on, in this position, if I keep rooks on, I might have attacking chances on his king. This is on g2, and let's say a move like knight d2 can be very annoying. If he takes it, rook takes, yeah, I'm getting an attack on g2. I just want to have the rook on the second rank, and still I have lots of active possibilities. Playing against the pawn, playing this, I have many good opportunities, and it's a simple fact that this knight is totally dominated on f1. The knight on e4 is just taking away all the key squares like d2 and g3. Yeah, he went rook c1 and I played f6. Yeah, there was a threat of rook c8, f6, and now queen b4 was played. Yeah, quickly played. It seems that a move like king h2 is a little bit tougher. Still, black of course has a huge advantage. I just go king f7 and go from there. I mean, I can very often just win one of the pawns. Yeah, in the game he played queen b4. This is a little bit less testing. King f7 and rook c6, rook c7. Yeah, this is actually what I wanted to him to play. It's very tempting to have some sort of counter attack, but it ultimately leads nowhere. I went to play knight c5 now. There's also knight d6, and I had a hard time to decide what to do. I then decided to play knight c5. This is also strong. b5 is basically gone. My decision to play knight c5 was based on one simple fact. With the knight here, the rook cannot return, and I still had this idea to play a king attack on the king, like rook d1, utilizing a pin on the knight, these kind of ideas. And it's quite funny that the computer at first prefers knight d6 and after a while recognized that knight c5 is not much worse. Okay, he went queen to b2. Yeah, hard to suggest anything really. Queen to b2. I went here, intending to play queen d3, yeah, using the pin. So queen e2 needs to be played. And here I went rook a1. This is a good move, going to a2 and setting up this attack. Yeah, black is winning now. King h2, rook a2, queen g4. And yeah, here it was funny. Here I took lots of time on move 42 because I was thinking, okay, there needs to be a totally forced win. And after a while, I thought that I have the forced win, that I see it. But yeah, I failed. Let's see what happened. I played h5. This is quite logical, attacking the queen, and it does not have many squares. He has to go to g3. He has to keep g2 protected. Yeah, I have this combined attack on it. Yeah, and here I could have won the game very straightforwardly. Well, what I played also wins. It's just longer. It takes longer. Knight e6 was strong. I didn't really think about the move, to be honest. I was always intending to play the knight to e4, and I never really thought about knight e6, but this is just strong. The reason is that after the rook retreats somewhere, I have h4, yeah, which only leaves queen g4, and then f5, and he can resign. Yeah, the knight is nicely covering g5. Yeah, this was a very convincing way to win the game. My continuation also wins. It's just far more complicated, and it also yeah, was based on a misjudgment. Knight e4, he went to e1. There is no other move. If he goes to f3, I'm winning the queen with rook f2. Quite nice. So to e1 instead of here, and now the move knight g5. This is what I had seen, of course, and I also had seen that queen g3 is not working now because of h4, knight f3, and rook f2. That's quite neat, yeah. Black is winning this quite easily. Note that my king is totally safe while I'm having an attack. Means that he has to play the move e4, which is what he played in the game. I went with a check, king h1. Okay, it's a little bit irritating, the whole situation. If I take on e1, he will take here and has this d6 idea. That's not so clear, actually. The thing is, and the funny fact is that when I played the move h5 here, and knight e4, I had this position in mind, and here I had planned the move, the spectacular move, rook takes g2, and I was thinking, okay, Isn't this great? Rook takes g2, yeah? All your pieces are hanging. And black still wins with my favorite mate, the Arabian mate. Rook g1 mate. Yeah, like this. Mate. Or mate. Very nice. Yeah, the only problem is it's not working. When I was about to play the move, I mean, not like I wasn't like reaching my arm out to move the piece, but when I was at this position, I was suddenly recognizing, okay, wait, what happens if he plays queen e3? Yeah, nothing happens. I'm just worse. Yeah, a very funny defensive move. After this, all my pieces are hanging. The rook hangs, the knight hangs, and the queen hangs. Yeah, and I'm losing material. So the planned move, rook takes g2, which is very nice from... Yeah, it looks very nice. It's just not working due to this weird queen e3 move. Yeah, of course, well, black has such an overwhelming position. It's not the end of the world. I went with this move, and it wins. Quite convincingly still. Yeah, he cannot take, of course. This is mate next. And this means that, well, the queen is attacked. So there is really not much besides, besides queen c1. Yeah, and after that, I was thinking that there's probably more than one win, but the easiest is just to take the pawn. Yeah, the reason is, well, it's a pawn and it's setting up this kind of thing. Just threatening to remove the knight and attack again on g2. And one point is, well, really white does not have any great move. He played knight e3. Yeah, queen c4 is important to check. But loses quite simply. And I'm picking up the pawn. Very important. Yeah, with the winning rook endgame. Yeah, he tried this move, knight e3. And here I went rook e2, which is convincing and enough. I had seen the move queen f4, but I didn't want to risk it. The reason is that there is this move. Yeah, the big point is that here I'm even losing. I had seen that king f8 should win, but I didn't want to risk that. The thing is here, if you look at this, this is winning for black, and I had the suspicion in the game that it wins, but I simply couldn't risk it. I mean, if you miscalculate something here and you are all of a sudden getting checkmated, then you can basically get one of those big Japanese swords and fall into one. Not a good idea. The reason is why I can easily avoid it, that I have rook e2 and this wins, threatening rook e1, winning the queen, and there is no defense against that. He played rook c4. And here I can just take e3 with the winning endgame, I know, but queen e6 is also quite cute. I still wanted to get the Arabian mate in, threatening queen h3. Yeah, he didn't allow that. So, for example, if he plays, let's say this, I'm mating him nicely. It's my favorite mate, I need to go for it. Yeah, he went f5, and here queen e5 also wins, but taking is simple and good. Yeah, here black has 2 extra pawns and still the attack. Yeah. Entering, check. And now the final move, rook g5. Yeah, after rook g5, he resigned the game. There is nothing to do really against queen f2 mate. The white king is in a mating net. Yeah, this is a game that I really liked. It shows that you can really fight those slow setups with a patient build-up. Something like this is black. It's really nothing spectacular, but with a a good long-term plan with this pressure against the pawn, you sometimes can create little things and go from there. And he of course helped me with moves, but when you feel a little bit under pressure, those moves simply do happen. In this position he was worried about the move knight e5, and he played f4 to prevent it, but he didn't really appreciate the weakness that he had created on e4 and on e3 as a consequence of the f4 move. Yeah, a nice strategic game that I liked. After the game, I was on 3 out of 3, so a good start, 3 wins in a row. And usually after 3 wins, you get one of the big guns. And in fact, yeah, you can look forward to the next video round 4 coverage when I'll be playing a player with almost 2,700 rating. Yeah, look forward to that. And thanks for watching this video.